Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Inspiring You Show. If we haven't met, I'm Henry. All right, y'all, before we get into it, let's just take a moment. I invite you to close your eyes, lower your gaze, and let's just take a moment to arrive. Take a nice deep breath. Let the outside world soften its grip on your attention. Allow the body to settle, not by force, but by permission. And now inhale slowly for 4, hold gently for 2, and then exhale for 6. So let's do it together. Inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then hold gently for 2. 1, 2. And then exhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's do it again. Inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2. 1, 2. Exhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now take a nice deep breath. And then notice the subtle widening at the back of the heart. Feel the quiet steadiness beneath you, the ground that holds without needing recognition. And as the breath lengthens, imagine that any scattered strands of energy or focus begin returning home. Returning to the center of your chest, cleared, shifted, recalibrated, returning to the present moment. We are meeting here inside coherence. There is no urgency, only awareness, only participation. All right, so let's talk about bringing the hidden architecture of prosperity into conscious relationship. So in this episode, we will begin to uncover the unseen frameworks that may be quietly organizing your experience of prosperity. So first, here's a message from Oversoul Stream of Sahariel. Prosperity is not an outer prize. It is the natural reverberation of coherence moving through every layer of your being. Let what is hidden rise into gentle visibility. Meet it with curiosity, not judgment. When the unconscious is welcomed home, sufficiency begins to circulate without resistance. So that's the end of the message. All right, so prosperity can often be misunderstood as something we must pursue, attract, or even earn. Yet, what if prosperity is not something granted from outside, but something that naturally emerges when the inner parts of our life become coherent? So much of what shapes our relationship with support, visibility, value, and right exchange does not first appear in conscious thought. It doesn't, y'all, or maybe for you it does. I don't know. I'd be open to hear. But it can live beneath the surface. So it can live beneath the surface in terms of in inherited expectations, in protective strategies the body once formed to survive, in subtle emotional memories that continue to organize perception long after their original context has passed. So, this conversation is an invitation to bring these unseen structures into conscious relationship, not to judge them, but to understand them, not to fight them, but to transform how we live within them. And so, this is all about then recognition of the unconscious field. So, again, much of what we call prosperity begins below awareness. the way we respond to opportunity, the ease or tension we feel around receiving, the stories we carry about worth, effort, fairness, or visibility. These are often shaped by long standing internal aspects, structures formed through family experience, cultural conditioning, personal history, nervous system learning. Could also be something inherited from the ancestral field, or it could be from past lives, etc., etc. So, in some of these, like especially with something with like the nervous system learning, some of this can really be, what once protected us can later begin to limit us. Not because it is wrong, but because it may be outdated or could be non beneficially now affecting or just completing or just wanting to complete, but still there lingering. And so this is where then I invite you now to gently reflect. Is there a belief about money, success, or support that you absorbed early in life? One that felt so normal that you never questioned it. So take a moment to ponder. So, with this, then, once you reflect and bring something to the surface of awareness, recognition is really the first movement of change. What becomes conscious becomes workable. What is seen can be met with choice. And so that's why then, which I know sometimes it feels like, especially with some of these non-beneficial patterns, like you don't even have a choice, but once you become aware of it, then you can ask for things to be cleared and shifted and recalibrated. Which is why then understanding possible hidden blocks to prosperity really matters so deeply. So what has remained unconscious does not remain inactive. It still organizes response. It still shapes what is expected, what is allowed, what is filtered out, and what the body prepares for before life even arrives. And this is why prosperity work cannot remain only at the level of mindset, desire, or calling in, if you will, in terms of like, or if you're doing like law of attraction, if the deeper architecture still expects strain, dismissal, or overgiving, invisibility, self reduction, or delayed support, then those structures continue to influence what can be received, sustained, and trusted. And so I have an example to share where I have heard, and I've even said this, I've said this before, I've heard others say this before, that sometimes in terms of like, understanding that we've lived past lives here, that the challenge is on earth and like, did I sign up for this? And things like, why did I come back to earth? Or wow. Or things where in your relationship to invisibility or visibility, where you're like, I'm overgiving and I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm invisible. So there can be aspects of that then for you to bring to recognition. And then once you bring it to recognition, asking for whatever information to be processed, you process the emotions with it too. And then you ask when you're ready to clear it. So then you can shift and recalibrate. Yet if you're still looping in the story and you never go beyond the actual embodiment of the real recognition and self-realization, and you just stay on the surface layer of then looping on it, you may then stay in that loop. That is why it's really important in terms of not only just self-realization and recognition, but then moving through the next steps of then clearing, asking for recalibration to allow yourself to shift. And that's then the completion of some of these aspects, in terms of if you want to say a pattern, whatever, things like that. So, in terms of hidden architecture, it's not always dramatic. Very often, it can appear as normalcy. It appears as the way one has always thought, the way one has always braced, the way one has always interpreted value, exchanged effort, rest, visibility, and support, which goes with what I was talking about earlier in terms of an example. If you felt like you've not been seen and heard, and this has been like a lifelong story, it could be something from present life that's connected to past life. It could be something also connected to your maternal or paternal lineage, or it could be something in regard to your soul working with your human that you're here to support in terms of helping to clear your part of it and then come to a completion and shift, which then will support in terms of evolving humanity, because we're here as light in physical form. And yes, your human is living in an experience, but remember, your soul may have other aspects that it's here in relationship to your human. So that is why then within this work, it can feel, so when you're talking about hidden architecture, not always dramatic, that very often it appears as normalcy. It appears as the way one has always thought, as I mentioned, the way one has always braced, the way one has always interpreted value, exchanged effort, rest, visibility, and support, which then it can feel very ordinary because it has been inhabited for so long. It has been a built-in pattern and possibly real strong habit in the human. But what is familiar is not always really true or the light truth of the situation. What is practiced is not always what is aligned. And this is the part of what makes conscious relationship to self so important. The purpose is not to condemn the old structures. The purpose is to see them clearly enough that they no longer remain the unseen authority within the field. Once they are brought into awareness, there is more choice, there's more expansiveness. Once they are named, there's more discernment. Once they are interrupted, there's more room for light truth to organize life differently. And so, with this, prosperity distortion is often not only about money, it can show up in support, rest, visibility, nourishment, time, mutuality, creative expression, relational, reciprocal nature, relational balance, the ability to let life meet you without first over preparing for disappointment. So many people will recognize that they are not only working with some aspects of lack, but with an entire internal organization around managing lack, anticipating lack, and normalizing reduced expectations. So, and that's why taking time to reflect of like what's really happening here, what is going on, is so important. And another important point here is that some structures were built intelligently. They were not failures. They were adaptive responses. They protected the human in moments. They protected the lineages. They protected relationships. They protected or environments where full openness was not safe, not supported, or not being able to be in a reciprocal nature. So this matters because healing cannot happen through blocks or through emotions that are unprocessed, like loss and grief, shame, or non-beneficial survival mechanisms, or even if there's unprocessed trauma. The old architecture must be met with understanding. It may no longer be aligned, but it often once supported a real function. So the old architecture may not be aligned anymore, but it did once support a real function, and it was beneficial at one point. So, but when you really then acknowledge that the old architecture is now calling for completion, the body tends to soften. And then you're able to do a clearing, shift, and then the recalibration becomes more possible. So, let's talk a little bit more about the unconscious field. So, recognition of the unconscious field is the moment you begin to notice that not everything shaping your life is happening at the level of conscious thought. Much of what influences prosperity, support, visibility, value, and right exchange can live underneath the surface. It can live as inherited patterning. You can have beneficial patterns and you can also have non beneficial patterns. A pattern can be beneficial at one point and then becomes non beneficial. And it can live also as body held memory. And what also can influence prosperity, support, visibility, value, right exchange can live underneath that surface. It can live as the nervous system expectation. It can live as a protective organization that became so familiar that it started to feel normal. And and I'll give you another example in my own life, which something I just caught myself on this week. I was walking my dog outside, and as I was walking, there was a person coming towards me that was taking up the entire sidewalk and walking with ski poles and very aggressively walking. And I immediately felt myself go backwards and started shrinking, and then immediately took myself off the sidewalk, and I was like, "Wow." I just completely acquiesced in terms of, in terms of immediately shrinking, and I took a couple breaths, sent Reiki, regrounded, realigned, and went back on the sidewalk, and I just was like, "We both can share this space. We can share this space. Send Reiki to the situation. We can share the space with ease, grace, harmony for the highest good." And then immediately, like, or within seconds, the person all of a sudden just shifted gently to one side and started walking with more ease, and it wasn't so abrupt. And so the passing went really smoothly and we were sharing the space. Yet, how many times maybe in my life have I acquiesced or, you know, completely shrunk myself or, oh, let me make myself more invisible. And that's what we're talking about here, where we're talking about where things can be possibly influencing that have been so habituated that maybe, many years ago, this was beneficial for me because we were at a different time. But now I have a lot more tools, more, in terms of understanding, more wisdom. And we also are just living in a different time. And so my relationship then to safety in the world can change because we are living in a different time. There's more consciousness on this. So I don't need to have some of these adaptive, habits that maybe also be blocking me from different places in regard to my own prosperity. Because if I'm shrinking and I'm deflecting the free usage of shared space, what else could I be possibly also doing this without even like consciously being aware of it? And that's why catching yourself is so important. And I'll also just say, like, you can talk to your guides and you can be channeling information, but it doesn't mean that you're not having a human experience, that you're not having things that you possibly also are needing to call in to clear, because we are multidimensional and there can be different times in your life with things come into awareness and resonance for you then to recognize, so that way things can shift and evolve. So and and I think, because sometimes I think, I feel like sometimes when I'm out in the world or listening to something on social media, I think sometimes You know, we want to hear that somebody had an instant awakening and then life was like a fairy tale after that, where they just were on their own yellow brick road and nothing ever happened in terms of they never had to clear anything, right, or actually had any problems, and that they're just in this la la land, which amazingly great if that has been somebody's experience. Like, I am going to say I love that for you. That has not been the case for me. And it has not been the case for many, many people that I've done sessions with. And also in just stories I've heard from friends and family, or from when the 20 years I lived and worked in reality TV, where I heard so many people's stories. And then just from experience from when I have, just been in various programs, learning energy work, or in my 2-year mindfulness meditation certification program, or when I've done so many things. People all of a sudden can be I'm doing well, but then next thing you know, something happens and the shoe can drop. But we're humaning. We're here to evolve and grow. So that means then you might have some smooth runs, but then all of a sudden you might turn the corner and something comes up from a past life. And it's how you're able to then handle that situation with tool usage and recognize, okay, what's really going on here? That's going to then support your human in terms of with more ease and grace. And your guides can help you and you can get psychic information, but that also doesn't mean that you can hear something from your guides, but that doesn't mean that you're going to fully take that in and immediately address it, because you might not even really know or understand what they're talking about until sometimes like a year later, which that has happened to me. Like, oh, this is what they were talking about. Got it. Because we're humaning. So within this though, recognition of the unconscious field is not about blame. It's not about assuming something is wrong. It's not right, wrong, good or bad. It's the business of business. And in the business of business, we're here to learn, grow, and evolve, which means then you're here to learn. What are you learning? And it's also then becoming aware of the deeper, old, possibly architecture that has been quietly shaping experience from underneath conscious awareness. And then once that old architecture begins to come into view, something is then able to change and shift. What was automatic becomes more visible. Like I gave you the example where I noticed that I shrunk back to immediately acquiesce the full sidewalk space to someone. And then I realized, wait, we can share this space. I have a field, that person has a field. We live in this collective field. I can share this space and I can occupy half of the sidewalk, and that person also has half the sidewalk. We can share, which means I need to ground and align and allow myself to be in that empowerment. And then the experience shifted. So what was automatic becomes more visible. What was familiar becomes more noticeable. And then what once operated silently can begin to be witnessed directly. And so then I witnessed myself directly, like, oh. And so this is important because once something is recognized, it is no longer then functioning with the same invisibility, because you caught yourself, you saw it. It can be understood more clearly. It can be related differently. It can be interrupted, cleared, recalibrated, or released if no longer aligned, and then the shifting comes. So the first movement is really about awareness, self-realization. It is about noticing the unseen field beneath the visible experience. It is about recognizing that some of what has felt natural may actually be inherited, protective, outdated, or no longer true for who you are now. And that recognition is powerful. That is one of the greatest keys that you can give to yourself. That is one of the greatest treasures. Because and I know, you know, sometimes it can be really exciting, if you're channeling, getting messages or seeing things. I will say, when I catch myself, I am way more excited. Like, "Oh my god, I totally get it." I am so excited. I am so excited about it. Like, yes, like when my Oversoul Sahara or my higher self, Aurelia or my collective guidance light team comes in. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, but I will say I get more excited when I actually catch myself because it's exciting. It is exciting to realize, like, wow, that is what's been happening. I have been wondering, and there it is. And it's like it unlocks to me it unlocks like the mystery. It brings in the missing piece of the puzzle to bring the picture together. It is such amazing work when you really start unpacking and really getting in the flow of it, the investigation of like what's really happening here. Like, to me, that is like the most exciting part of all this in terms of the humaning. And with that, then the capability of the shifting, the recalibration, the peace that you can bring in because you unlocked and saw that and was able to ask, it is one of the greatest gifts for the human. So that recognition, like I said, is powerful. And because the unconscious field is not inactive just because it is unseen. So this is really important to understand. The unconscious field is not inactive just because it is unseen. It's often still organizing response, expectation, and capacity. So when it becomes conscious, the human has more choice. The human has more discernment. The human has more ability to participate from light truth rather than from automatic patterning. And again, I cannot repeat this enough. That is why recognition comes first. And in dowsing energy work, we call it investigation, or you may hear it as like realization work, self-realization work, or consciousness work. No matter, it's the same, but it comes before clearing, before recalibration, before a new way of relating can fully stabilize. And I'll just say another thing too. So say if you're doing energy meditations where they're talking about light codes and allowing yourself to receive them or activate them. If you have a non-beneficial pattern blocking, it doesn't matter how many meditations you listen to. It doesn't matter how many times somebody says, let yourself receive the light codes. Your soul and your oversoul is working with your human. Your oversoul is the one that has the on and off switch in regard to your light codes. Just because your human is saying, yes, I want to receive for my highest good, it won't matter. Because if there is a block, there's a block. You won't be able to, the light code won't be able to activate. It's like, if you haven't paid, if the electric bill has not been paid in the house, no matter how many times you try to turn that light switch on and off, or if the electric company has not come and activated it, it doesn't matter. You won't be able to turn on the power. The power is not going to work. The power is powered up by your soul and oversoul. And it's really your oversoul. And that has to do with your relationship with your human, because they are watching over where your human is. And if your human is not at a point where your human has recalibrated, you're not going to be able to, they're not going to all of a sudden turn on light codes if the human's nervous system isn't able to recognize and receive the light codes. It will be like for nothing because the nervous system might be in non-beneficial survival. And that means then if it's in non-beneficial survival, the nervous system may then perceive the light codes as something that is also a possible threat. And that's why it's so important to use tools to regulate the nervous system and then teach the nervous system how to entrain in regard to your soul light. So that way, then you're able to embody, and when the light codes are activated, your nervous system and your human is able to work with them in the recognition. And that's why, like the oversoul and soul, they're working with the human in terms of trifecta, but the oversoul is like moderating where the human is, whether or not the human has the capacity to take on more light. If more light is going to be more disruptive because it's high vibrational, then the oversoul, even if you asked for the codes, light codes to activate, the oversoul, you'll be heard, but it won't be activated until your human has undergone a process of clearing and recalibration. And you'll probably start getting signs because you did ask. And all of a sudden you're like, why are these patterns that I feel like I've lived in before coming up? Well, that's because they're trying to give you the signs of what possibly needs to get cleared and shifted and recalibrated because you're asking about something that you wish to have, or you feel guided to ask, or it feels right for you, feels like it's in resonance. Well, it might feel resonance to you because your oversoul has been trying to get your attention, or your guides are trying to get your attention. So that way you do wake up and ask for the clearing and shifting and recalibrating and catch yourself in the habits so that way you can embody a new way of being. So that is why within all of this, the awareness is so important. But before this, there has to be a willingness to see what has been there all along. So we have the recognition, that's why the recognition comes first. And then again, in dowsing energy, we call it investigation. And then, but before the clearing, before the recalibration, before a new way of relating can fully stabilize, there has to be a willingness to see what has been there all along. And I'm going to say, I don't know about anybody else's experience. I do know for myself and from my many, many clients I've worked with that it has not been always an easy peasy road. But awareness and self-realization is so important. And the more awake and the more you clear, you shift, then you can expand in consciousness. And so hidden prosperity blocks from old architecture, and the old architecture are, old habits, things like that, or patterns that are now become non-beneficial or defunct. So hidden prosperity blocks from old architecture is not only about clearing blocks so that more can come in. It is about becoming conscious of what has been living underneath the life one is living. It's about realizing how much of perception, response, and expectation has been organized from below awareness. That realization itself is part of the awakening. It's not as theory, it's not as concept, but as direct relationship with what has been shaping reality from within. And then it's about, in that waking up, then letting go of being asleep to your good and recognizing what has always been happening, possibly to be able to ask for it to clear, eventually shift, and then the recalibration happening. So conscious embodiment does not mean one never encounters old patterning again. Maybe there are people that haven't had that experience, which again, blessed be and amazing. And I'm so happy for you. Like, I love that for you. That has not been my experience. That has not been my clients' experiences as well, and that's not been in terms of me talking to friends and family. And I have also taken a ton of classes. I feel like I've been on this road of like, how does it really work? No, how does it really work? Like, how does it really work? Don't gaslight me. Like, how does it really work? And I've been working with my guides, asking for the real, and it's been, it's been years in terms of like really understanding this, and then how to utilize the tools. But that doesn't mean it has to be years for you, because again, we're in a different time. Last year, we went through the wave of becoming. It was light format year 1. This is light format year 2. Things are moving a lot faster now, which is so amazing for humanity, animal kingdom, Mother Earth, everyone. It's so amazing. So again, conscious embodiment does not mean one never encounters old patterning again. It means, though, it recognized sooner. It means one is less fused with it. It means the human becomes able to notice, pause, discern, and choose from a more coherent place. This is a major shift. And the goal is not perfection. The goal is increased awareness, increased light truth recognition, and increased participation in how reality is being formed through the inner field, which then affects how then the external field is then reading your field, your personal field. So recognition is the beginning of reclaiming authorship. And the unconscious field is, let's just talk about the unconscious field for a minute. The unconscious field is not only negative, it's not only possibly negative patterning, it's really the broader internal architecture, that some of it may be outdated architecture that is beneath conscious thought. It can include body memory, inherited relational coding, nervous system expectations, emotional patterning, learned positioning, habits, energetic familiarity, the structures that form to help the human navigate life. Some of these are protective, some are outdated, some are stabilizing, some are restrictive. Some may still be beneficial for you. So it's not really like negative per se. Some still may be beneficial for you and helping you. So it's not like you're going to just clear it all at once. Some might still be helping you at a point. But within this, recognition simply allows them to be known more clearly in terms of the parts that are now ready to be complete, and to allow you then to ask for it to clear, shift, and recalibrate. So the unconscious field is not inactive simply because it's unseen. It still participates in organizing response, expectation, and capacity. And so again, before recognition, the field may still be organized by even like assumptions that were never consciously chosen, but perhaps were brought in for wherever you were in your life at that time. Assumptions also about like what is safe to receive, assumptions about what visibility costs, assumptions about how much effort is required before support can arrive. There could be assumptions about whether one is allowed to be nourished, seen, have reciprocal nature in terms of balancing giving and receiving, or other things. And so whatever you want to call these, patterns, assumptions, beliefs, they may not present themselves as like even obvious beliefs. They may show up as reflex, as bracing, as over preparation, as hesitation, as self-reduction, as discounting, as expecting delay, as normalizing depletion. This is why recognition matters. It allows the human to notice that something has been operating in the field long before it was consciously named. And so that, again, why it's really important to understand. Recognition of the unconscious field is the moment you begin to notice that not everything shaping your life is happening happening consciously. Much of what affects prosperity, abundance, financial flow, support, visibility, value, and exchange can live underneath the surface as inherited patterning, body held memory, protective organization, and nervous system expectation. And what is conscious does not stop shaping experience because it has not been named. It can still influence what feels safe to receive, what is expected, what is braced against, and what the field assumes is possible. So, this part of the work is about becoming aware of the deeper architecture that has been quietly organizing experience from underneath conscious thought. Because once something is recognized, it is no longer left entirely unseen. What was automatic becomes more interruptible. What was hidden begins to enter conscious relationship. And that is where deeper change really starts to begin. Okay, so then what do you do with all this? There are a ton of tools out there. One of my favorite tools is dowsing energy work using a pendulum. And if you have taken the intro to dowsing class with me, you may also know what I'm talking about. And if you're in the Inspiring You All Access Patreon, the intro to dowsing is actually included in the monthly membership. So it is really an amazing class to take. And you get not only that in the All Access Inspiring You Patreon, but you also get 2 group dowsings a month. You also get access to the Meditate With Me classes, which there's at least 6 energy meditations that we do a month. And then there's a ton of other resources on there. And then another thing that I just finished putting out, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I just want to talk more about dowsing. So hold on one sec. Okay, sorry, y'all. I had to take a sip of water. In Los Angeles right now, we are in a bit of a heat wave. So all of a sudden I'm like, I need to take on some water. All right, so let's talk about dowsing and doing the investigation. So I feel one powerful way to explore hidden inner organization is really through investigation, through dowsing energy work. So you can also do it other ways. I mean, through journaling, somatic awareness, but I feel, tools like pendulum in doing dowsing energy work, this really helps you support in so many ways. But things that, you can ask in dowsing or even in doing journaling or somatic awareness, is there a part of me that equates visibility with risk? And then you can connect it to prosperity. Is there part of me that equates visibility with risk? And am I holding myself back from receiving abundance, prosperity, financial flow? Because there could be a part of you that feels like it needs to hold you back out of, maybe it was from something from long ago. Another thing that you can ask is, do I still carry inherited expectations around self-sacrifice or over effort? And you can ask that for present life. You can also, this is what I love about dowsing energy work, is that you can ask about past lives too. And you then even can ask, or is there any self-sacrifice or over effort from like my maternal or paternal lineages? And has that been handed down through the generations? And then in dowsing work, you can also ask, what is the percentage that's affecting me? So then you can start to know, like, what's really going on in terms of like the subconscious, the unconscious field. And then you can also ask, is scarcity familiar even when new possibilities are present? Because even though you might be saying, I want abundance, prosperity, financial flow, your human could be so used to living in scarcity that it may have become this pattern or this habit. And so then you have to recognize, wait, has scarcity become familiar? And am I comfortable in that? And then do I need to ask for that to clear, or is that blocking new possibilities? And then you get the information, and then you're able to do the clearing and the shifting and the recalibrating. And so with the questions, these questions are not meant to create like doubt. They're meant to actually illuminate. They're meant to illuminate. Because when unconscious patterning becomes visible, it becomes interruptible. You're able to ask for clearing, shift, and then recalibrate. A new response becomes possible. And that's where we go into recalibrating the field. Once awareness opens, recalibration can begin. This is not about forcing change. It is about allowing outdated structures to soften while new coherence forms. So let's just try a simple breath practice right now. Let yourself inhale the word witness and then exhale the word release. Okay, again, inhale the word witness, exhale the word release. Okay, again, inhale the word witness, exhale the word release. So just check in. Did you see anything shift, even if it's slight? So as tension dissolves, the natural pathways of support can begin to reopen. Prosperity is not created through strain. It circulates through clarity. So with that then, let these reflections land slowly. Small adjustments often create the most sustainable transformation. And yes, you can have big and grand ones. But the thing is, though, it's the small ones that may actually support you in terms of creating new ways of habiting with the human. Grounded presence makes receiving safer for the nervous system. And this is an important one. Grounded presence makes receiving safer for the nervous system. Because no matter how much you bring in terms of abundance, prosperity, financial flow, etc., if your nervous system does not feel safe to receive, it means that you could have a lot of money coming in and then you're like, wait, where did it all go? Well, because your nervous system doesn't feel safe. So it's hot potatoing it out. It's coming in. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. Now my car needs to be fixed and you had to put a lot of money there, or this has a lot of money, and money is just like pouring out of you. It's pouring in and it's pouring out of you. And you're like, wait, it's not really staying because your nervous system might not feel safe to receive. Okay, here's another reflection. Gentleness is not weakness. It's divine intelligent pacing. Here's another reflection. Self-nourishment strengthens the ability to contribute. Self-nourishment strengthens the ability to contribute. It's the whole glass half full. I mean, not glass half full. Glass full before you help someone else, or oxygen mask on first before you help someone else. That's a better one. You want to basically fill yourself up first before you help someone else, because then it strengthens your ability to contribute because you're coming from a space of fullness, or the oxygen mask is on first. Here's another one. Consistent awareness outlasts emotional fluctuation. Here's another one. Healthy boundaries protect inner coherence. And here's one more. Innovation arises more easily from centered alignment than from urgency. So take another breath. See how you are now. And then also part of the dowsing work, there's investigative questions. There's, sometimes these reflective, nature of statements. And then there's the clearing and calling in process once you have that realization. And so a clearing and calling in could be, release, clear and remove the non-beneficial reflex to brace before support arises. Clear and remove non-beneficial or completed inherited associations between visibility and danger. Clear and remove any non-beneficial internal filters that are minimizing innate worth. Clear and remove any blocks that is blocking worth, financial flow, abundance. And then once you've done that part of the dowsing, then you move into the calling in part or the recalibration part. And this is then you can invite in beneficial aspects of aligned opportunities that do not require self-abandonment, but allows you to be in fullness, joy, peace, harmony, consistent flow of abundance, prosperity. You also can call in, invite in beneficial, healthy relationships that honor the give and take, the healthy give and take or reciprocal nature of a relationship and mutual growth with ease and grace. You can also call in to strengthen confidence in experiencing value through authentic exchange. And that's all part of like this dowsing work that we do. And it has been, for me, it has been 100% transformational. It has helped me in so many ways in my life. But having these types of tools and these integration tools, really, it just supports you, because it is beneficial to journal, different prompts, like which beliefs about prosperity feel inherited rather than consciously chosen, or where does my body tighten when I imagine receiving more support? How could I gently interrupt any old scarcity reaction today? Like that is really helpful. Yet in dowsing, you can take it so much further, because you can ask, is this from present life, past lives? You can ask in terms of, what is the yes or no? Is it a yes or a no? You can ask the percentage. How much from past life is affecting this present life? Is it the individual field? Is it the ancestral field, the maternal, paternal lineages? You have an ancestry field. Is that field also affecting me anyway? There can be beneficial aspects. It might be something non-beneficial. You could also be affected by the collective field. And then you could also be, we're bodies within a body. And then we also live in different parts of the world. So where you live, okay, is there anything like in the United States? I could ask, is there anything in the state that I live in terms of the collective that's non-beneficially affecting me? Or is there anything non-beneficially affecting me in regard to the country I live in? And then you can ask for a clearing, and then you can ask in terms of the calling in part in dowsing, you can ask for a beneficial buffer if it's beneficial to put over you, that you're not then as affected by anything that's going on, in terms of state or country wise, or even world wise. So that way you're having, you're buffered by it, but you have to utilize these declarative aspects of your voicing, your ability to stand in light and physical form and tell your guides or ask your guides, for support and help. Tell them what you need. You have free will. So they're going to support you as much as they can, but if you're not then recognizing and asking, they may not be able to support you as much as they want to. So here's another practice that, you can also do in terms of integration tools. You can place one hand over your heart, one hand over your solar plexus. My hands are heating up right now. I have Reiki hands. Yes, it is hot here in LA, and currently my Reiki hands are heating up. So close your eyes, take a nice deep breath. Exhale. All right, then on the inhale, say, I acknowledge what has been hidden. So on the inhale, I acknowledge what has been hidden. And then on the exhale, I choose greater coherence. So we're going to repeat it 5 cycles. And then notice any sensations, emotions, or insights. All right, inhale, I acknowledge what has been hidden. And then exhale, I choose greater coherence. Inhale, I acknowledge what has been hidden. Exhale, I choose greater coherence. Okay, again, I inhale, I acknowledge what has been hidden. Exhale, I choose greater coherence. All right, let yourself do now another couple. Okay, so what did you notice? Any sensations, emotions, or insights? And then from there, you could do the next steps in terms of clearing your recalibration. You could also utilize, I'm a big fan of using Reiki affirmations. You can use Reiki affirmations, and here's some. You can repeat after me if this resonates with you. Prosperity reflects inner alignment. I allow myself to receive with ease and grace and harmony for the highest good. Awareness transforms old patterning. I can allow support to flow through clarity and participation for the highest good. All right, take another deep breath. So continue having your eyes closed. And for a moment now, just take a moment to be inside the awareness you've just cultivated. Feel the quiet infrastructure of your life. The ways you've grown, learned, adapted, and refined. Give gratitude for yourself for showing up. Prosperity is not only material, it's relational, emotional, energetic, creative. It's the natural response of life when coherence deepens. So let yourself remain present, remain receptive, allow the next step to reveal itself gently. So take another deep breath. Gratitude that you showed up. Great job, human. And then if your eyes were closed, open your eyes and welcome back. So if you're interested in learning more about dowsing or any of these things that I've been talking about in the Inspiring You Patreon, we do a lot more of a deep dive on them. And there is a free component or a free newsletter, but the real action is in the Meditate with Me, which includes, we're doing these meditations these 5-part meditations that they include so much, and there's different guides that come in, and we do nervous system tools, but we also connect to soul over soul, and there's so much there. And for me and so many other people in the Inspiring You Patreon, the Meditate with Me and the All Access levels, just in this last year, they have supported us in ways that I'm still like in awe of. And each week I am learning more, and I feel even more incoherent, and it just feels so good. But if you're in the All Access Patreon, you get access to the All Access, which is the dowsing, the 2 group dowsings a month, as well as the intro to dowsing, how to dowse is in there, which is a 3-hour workshop, which normally costs $150, but I put it into the All Access tier, which is $50 a month. So that way people were able to get tools that really were beneficial for them, that are lifelong tools. But if you want to know more about like prosperity, abundance, and if you're ready to like transmute scarcity more at its root and begin to allow the abundance and prosperity to move through every layer and begin to clear outdated architecture and allowing that new architecture to come in, then I just finished putting out a course, which is a 3-part harmonic abundance crystalline dowsing series. It's in the All Access Inspiring You Patreon tier. And y'all, the third part of that class, or the third, it is over 100 pages. It took me over 60 hours to like meditate, channel, put together. And it is, I can't even tell you. The first 2 parts are rich in terms of the material. The third part brings the other 2 parts together and then it goes so far beyond what I even thought. When I first started putting the course together, which was last year, I was like, yeah, this sounds like a great idea when the guys brought it through. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And then I was just blown away by this third part. But anyway, if you're interested, this series is this 3-part harmonic abundance crystalline dowsing series. It's not a mindset coaching, and it is not surface level meditation or it's not surface level manifestation. Sorry about that. It's not surface level manifestation. It is multi-dimensional work that is deep and profound. It is multi-dimensional clearing, calling in, and recalibration that was delivered through Pure Source Oversoul stream and from the Oversoul Council, and it's from Pure Source. And it is connected and structured to not only reveal the hidden scaffolds that quietly maybe organize value, visibility, and exchange, but then also dissolve inherited scarcity lattices by precise dowsing and crystalline clearing protocols. And then with that, as outdated architecture clears, flow can be restored and your prosperity pathways become more open to receiving support and allowing it to circulate in a balanced, supportive, and harmonious way. And so if you're interested in that, I am going to put the link in the show notes. And I'll also say too, the guides often talk about how prosperity is the natural resonance of coherence. So if you do join us in the All Access on the Patreon and that 3-part harmonic abundance crystalline series and move through the process, I would love to hear from you. And also just know this course is really about the unseen frameworks that shape your reality that then can come to the surface. And when the clearing and the recalibration happens, then you are able to watch how then prosperity can really, in abundance, can really rise to meet your every genuine need. So each part in the 3-part harmonic abundance crystalline dowsing series, each part includes investigative dowsing questions you can use immediately. Also includes clearing and calling in protocols. And so if you're interested, join us on there. If your body says yes, if your intuition says yes, if you feel like yes, then step through the threshold with us. Access all the 3 sessions. It's all on there. It's in the Inspiring You Patreon All Access tier, and it is $50 a month. If you did want to just buy it as a one-off, I did put it in the store on the Inspiring You Patreon. You can buy it as a one-off, which is $75. So I'm giving a discount to the people who join the membership, which but you just get more in the membership. Even if you joined for like a month, you get more in the membership. You get the 2 dowsing classes. Additionally, you also get the intro to dowsing, the meditation classes, also access to the Reiki box, but whatever. Some people feel more comfortable buying things as a one-off. So it is available in the store for $75. All right. So your coherence is the invitation. So check in to see whether or not it is, beneficial for you. With that, my friends, we are going to be complete for now. Here is the crystalline Reiki blessing. May clarity continue unfolding within you. May your nervous system feel safe as new possibilities arise. May your steps be guided by light, truth, steadiness, and self-trust. Take another deep breath. Thank you for being here, my friends. Your awareness is already shaping a different future for your highest good. And so it is. We are complete for now, my friends. Much, much love. Until soon. And stay inspired, my friends.